Have you ever felt your thoughts dominate you, taking you from calm to anxiety in a single instant? The Buddha taught us something profound. Your mind can be your greatest ally or your worst enemy. Right now, it might feel like the enemy. The thoughts won't stop. The worry keeps spinning. The anxiety creeps in without warning. But here's what the Buddha discovered 2,500 years ago. There is a secret to controlling your mind, not by fighting it, but by understanding its true nature. In the next 3 hours, we're going to explore this ancient wisdom together. You're going to learn how to transform your relationship with your thoughts, step by step, using teachings that have brought peace to millions of people across centuries. If you've ever wanted to find genuine peace and mental clarity, if you're tired of your mind controlling you, this is exactly where you need to be. Hello, dear friend. I'm so glad you're here. If it feels right, share where you're listening from in the comments. We're walking this path together. Now get comfortable. This is your sanctuary for the next 3 hours. Grab a blanket, find your cozier spot. Let yourself settle. Take a deep breath with me. Let's begin. You're lying in bed, exhausted, desperately wanting sleep, but your mind has other plans. The thoughts won't stop coming. One thought leads to another, then another, like dominoes falling in an endless chain. You replay that conversation from earlier today, analyzing every word you said. Then your mind jumps to tomorrow's worries. The meeting, the deadline, that difficult conversation you've been avoiding. You tell yourself to stop thinking. Just stop. But the more you try, the louder the thoughts become. It's like trying to hold water in your hands. The tighter you grip, the more it slips through your fingers. You know this feeling, don't you? Maybe it's not 3 in the morning for you. Maybe it's during your commute, when anxiety creeps in without warning. Or during a quiet moment at work, when suddenly your mind fills with worries about things that haven't even happened yet. Or at dinner with friends, when you're physically present but mentally somewhere else entirely, trapped in a loop of thoughts you can't escape. This exhaustion of fighting your own mind, it's one of the most common forms of suffering in our modern world. We've been taught to be productive, to control our lives, to manage everything, but no one ever taught us what to do when our own thoughts turn against us. The Buddha understood this 2,500 years ago. Long before neuroscience, before psychology, before our age of information overload and constant stimulation, he saw something fundamental about the human mind. He saw that our suffering doesn't come primarily from external circumstances. It comes from our relationship with our own thoughts. Let me tell you what he discovered. The Buddha used a beautiful word to describe the mind: citta. It's often translated simply as mind, but it means something much richer than that. Chitta is not a thing. It's a process. It's not a fixed, solid entity sitting somewhere in your head. It's more like a river, constantly flowing, constantly changing, never the same from one moment to the next. Imagine standing beside a river. Watch the water flowing past you. See how it carries leaves, branches, sometimes clear and sometimes muddy. The river is always moving. What you see this moment is already gone the next moment. New water arrives constantly. The river never stops, never repeats itself. Exactly. Your mind works exactly the same way. Thoughts flow through like water. Emotions rise and fall like waves. Memories drift by like leaves on the surface. And just like the river, your mind is never truly still. It's always in motion, always changing, always flowing. But here's what makes this so important. If your mind is a river, then you are not the river. You are the one standing on the shore, watching it flow. You are the awareness that witnesses the thoughts, not the thoughts themselves. This distinction changes everything. The Buddha taught that this flowing mind, this citta, has an extraordinary power. It can create both suffering and liberation. It can be your prison or your freedom, your worst enemy or your greatest ally. Everything depends on one thing, whether you understand its nature or not. Think about it for a moment. When you believe every thought that passes through your mind, when you take each worry as truth, when you identify completely with every fear and anxiety, what happens? You suffer. You become trapped in the river, swept away by the current, tumbling over rocks, unable to find solid ground. But when you begin to understand that thoughts are just thoughts, passing phenomena, temporary visitors, waves that rise and fall, something shifts. You find a kind of freedom you didn't know existed. The Buddha gave us another metaphor that's even more beautiful. He said the mind is like the sky. Look up at the sky right now, or imagine it if you can't see it. Some days the sky is completely clear, brilliant blue stretching endlessly, the sun shining bright. Those are the days when your mind feels calm, when thoughts are gentle, when everything seems clear and peaceful. But other days, clouds roll in. Dark, heavy clouds that block out the sun. Storm clouds that bring thunder and lightning. Those are the days when your mind fills with worry, when negative thoughts dominate, when everything feels overwhelming and dark. Here's the profound insight. No matter how dark the clouds become, no matter how fierce the storm, the sky itself never changes. The clouds don't damage the sky. They don't stain it or alter its fundamental nature. They simply pass through. Behind the darkest storm clouds, the clear blue sky is always there, unchanged, untouched, waiting. Your mind works the same way. Your true nature, what the Buddha called your original mind, is like that clear sky. It's naturally spacious, naturally peaceful, naturally clear. But over time, it gets covered by clouds, by what Buddhism calls kilesas, or defilements. These defilements are like layers of dust on a mirror. They're not part of the mirror itself. They're just covering it, obscuring its natural clarity. Greed is one of these clouds. Hatred is another. Delusion, jealousy, anxiety, endless wanting. These are all clouds that obscure your mind's natural clarity. But, and this is crucial, they're not you. They're not your fundamental nature. They're just visitors, temporary phenomena passing through the sky of your awareness. This brings us to one of the Buddha's most important teachings, anicca, or impermanence. Everything changes. Everything. Not just the big things, your circumstances, your relationships, your body as it ages, but also the small things. Every thought that arises will pass away. Every emotion that wells up will eventually subside. Every state of mind, no matter how intense it feels in this moment, is temporary. Right now, you might feel anxious. That anxiety feels solid, real, permanent, like it's always been there and always will be. But if you watch carefully, you'll notice it changes. It gets stronger, then weaker. It shifts and morphs. And eventually, it passes, replaced by another thought, another feeling, another state of mind. Nothing stays. Everything flows. This is the nature of reality itself. But why does the mind produce so many thoughts in the first place? Why can't it just be quiet? From a modern scientific perspective, we understand that our brains evolved for survival, not for peace. Our ancestors needed to constantly scan for threats, remember dangers, plan for future challenges. A quiet mind in the wilderness could mean death. So we developed what psychologists call a negativity bias. Our minds naturally focus more on threats and problems than on safety and beauty. The Buddha understood this differently, but his insight aligns remarkably well with modern science. He taught about sankhara, karmic formations, or mental conditioning. These are patterns laid down by past experiences, habits of thinking that become automatic. Every time you think a certain way, you strengthen that neural pathway, that mental habit. Every time you worry, you become better at worrying. Every time you criticize yourself, that voice becomes more automatic. These sankharas are like grooves worn into rock by water flowing over them again and again. At first, the water spreads everywhere, but over time, it carves specific channels, and then it naturally flows in those same patterns. Your mind works the same way. Repeated thoughts become habitual thoughts. Habitual thoughts feel like truth. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Your mind doesn't just produce thoughts randomly. It engages in what Buddhism calls papaññica, conceptual proliferation. Papaññica is when one thought spawns 10 more thoughts, which spawn 100 more. You think about a conversation you need to have tomorrow, and suddenly you're imagining 15 different ways it could go wrong. You remember one mistake from the past, and your mind immediately connects it to every other mistake you've ever made, building a narrative about who you are. It's like a tiny spark that becomes a wildfire. One innocent thought, "I wonder if they liked my presentation," becomes an entire story. They probably thought it was terrible. They're judging me right now. Everyone thinks I'm incompetent. I'll probably lose my job. I'm a failure. None of this is actually happening. It's all in your mind. But it feels absolutely real, doesn't it? The Buddha said something profound about this. The mind is everything. What you think, you become. These aren't just beautiful words. They're pointing to a fundamental truth about how we create our experience of reality. Your thoughts don't just describe your world. They shape it, color it, define it. Two people can experience the exact same event and have completely different reactions because their minds interpret that event differently. One person gets stuck in traffic and thinks, "This is terrible. My whole day is ruined. Nothing ever goes right." Another person in the same traffic thinks, "Well, here's some unexpected time to listen to that podcast I've been meaning to hear." Same traffic, different minds, different experiences. What you consistently think about, you become. If you think anxious thoughts all day, you become an anxious person. Not because anxiety is your true nature, but because you've trained your mind in that direction. If you think critical thoughts about yourself, you become someone who suffers from self-criticism, not because you're fundamentally flawed, but because you've practiced that way of thinking. But here's the liberating insight the Buddha discovered. You are not your thoughts. This is the beginning of understanding anatta, not self. It's one of the most misunderstood teachings in Buddhism, but it's also one of the most freeing. When a thought arises in your mind, let's say a thought like, "I'm not good enough," who is observing that thought? If you were that thought, you couldn't observe it, could you? The very fact that you can notice your thoughts means there's a part of you that's separate from them, a witnessing awareness that remains constant even as thoughts come and go. Think about it. Right now, as you listen to these words, thoughts are probably arising in your mind. Maybe you're agreeing with something I said, or questioning it, or thinking about your own experience. But notice, you're aware of those thoughts. You can observe them happening, which means you can't be the thoughts themselves. This is where so much of our suffering comes from. This mistaken identification with our thoughts. When a fearful thought arises, instead of seeing it as just a thought passing through the sky of your mind, you think, "I am afraid." When an angry thought arises, you think, "I am angry." When a self-critical thought arises, you think, "I am not good enough." But none of these are actually true. You're not the fear. You're the one experiencing fear. You're not the anger. You're the one feeling anger. You're not the self-criticism. You're the one hearing that critical voice. This distinction might seem subtle, but it changes everything. When you believe you are your thoughts, every negative thought becomes a statement about who you are. But when you understand that thoughts are just passing phenomena, like weather patterns moving through your mind, you stop taking them so personally. They lose their power to define you. Imagine you're watching a movie. The movie might be scary, sad, or disturbing, but you know it's just a movie. You don't confuse yourself with the characters on screen. You remain seated in your chair, watching, knowing that what's happening on screen isn't happening to you. Your thoughts are like that movie. They play out on the screen of your awareness, but you are not the movie. You're the one watching. The suffering comes when we forget this. When we get so absorbed in the movie that we forget we're watching it. When we identify so completely with our thoughts that we lose touch with the awareness beneath them. This is what the Buddha meant when he said the mind can be your enemy or your ally. An unexamined mind, a mind you don't understand, will create endless suffering through this misidentification. But a mind you've learned to observe, a mind whose nature you've begun to understand, becomes the very tool of your liberation. So what if the problem isn't your thoughts at all? What if the problem is your relationship with your thoughts? What if you've been trying to control something that was never meant to be controlled, but rather understood? Right now, take a breath with me. Just one conscious breath. Notice the air entering your body. Notice it leaving. In that moment of breathing, your thoughts might have paused, even just for a second. That pause, that gap between thoughts, that's the clear sky we've been talking about. It's always there, always accessible, always waiting beneath the clouds. This is the invitation, not to fight your mind, not to suppress your thoughts, not to achieve some impossible state of mental blankness, but to shift from controlling to observing, to move from being lost in the river to standing on the shore, to remember that you are the sky, not the weather. But before we go deeper into how to do this, let me tell you a story. It's a story about the Buddha himself, about a day when someone tried to disturb his peace with the most hateful words imaginable. What happened next reveals everything you need to know about mastering your mind. It was a bright morning in ancient India, and the Buddha was teaching in a small village near Magadha. People had gathered around him, sitting on the ground, drawn by the peace that seemed to radiate from his presence. He spoke about the nature of suffering, about the mind, about the path to liberation, and his words touched something deep within those who listened. But not everyone was pleased. In the crowd stood a man whose heart was filled with bitterness. Life had been unkind to him, or so he believed. He had suffered losses, disappointments, betrayals, and when he heard people praising the Buddha, calling him enlightened, calling him peaceful, something inside him burned with resentment. How could anyone be truly at peace in this world? How could someone claim to be free from suffering when suffering was everywhere? It seemed like a lie to him, a deception, and he decided he would expose this so-called enlightened teacher for the fraud he must be. So he pushed his way through the crowd, his jaw clenched, his fists tight. The people around him stepped aside, sensing his anger, feeling the heat of his rage. He came to stand directly before the Buddha, who sat peacefully beneath a tree, his eyes gentle, his posture relaxed. And then the man began to shout. His words were sharp as knives, designed to wound. He hurled insults at the Buddha, calling him a charlatan, a deceiver, a man who pretended to be wise but knew nothing of real life. He questioned the Buddha's teachings, his integrity, his very right to speak. The insults grew louder, harsher, more personal. The crowd fell silent, shocked. Some looked away in embarrassment. Others watched nervously, wondering how the Buddha would respond to such disrespect. But the Buddha did not respond, not in the way they expected. He simply sat there, looking at the angry man with eyes full of compassion. His face remained calm, serene, as if the insults were nothing more than wind passing through the trees. He didn't flinch, didn't harden, didn't show any sign of being affected by the hateful words raining down upon him. The man kept shouting, kept hurling his anger like stones, trying desperately to provoke a reaction, any reaction. But the Buddha remained still, present, peaceful. Eventually, the man's voice grew hoarse. His anger, burning so hot, began to exhaust itself. The shouting slowed, then stopped. He stood there, breathing heavily, confused by the Buddha's silence, frustrated by his inability to disturb this man's peace. And then the Buddha spoke, not with anger, not with defensiveness, but with a gentleness that cut through everything. He said, "Tell me, friend, when someone visits your home, do you offer them food and drink?" The man, caught off guard by the question, answered automatically, "Yes, of course. That's what any decent person does." The Buddha nodded gently, "And if your guest refuses to accept what you offer, if they decline your food and drink, then to whom does that food and drink belong?" The man frowned, uncertain where this was going. It remains mine, I suppose. If they don't take it, it's still my food. The Buddha smiled, a smile of infinite kindness. Just so, my friend. You have offered me anger, insults, and hatred today, but I do not accept them. I do not take what you have offered. So to whom do those insults belong? The silence that followed was profound. The man stood frozen, the Buddha's words sinking in like water into parched earth. Slowly he understood. The anger he had thrown at the Buddha had not touched the Buddha at all, because the Buddha had simply chosen not to receive it. It had remained with him, the one offering it. All that rage, all that hatred, it was his burden, not the Buddha's. And in that moment, something broke open inside him. His shoulders dropped. His face, so tight with rage, began to soften. Tears filled his eyes, tears of recognition, of relief, of understanding. He fell to his knees. "Forgive me, teacher," he whispered. "I have lived in darkness for so long. I forgot what light looked like." The Buddha placed a gentle hand on the man's shoulder. Anger is like holding a burning coal with the intent to throw it at someone else, he said softly. You are the one who gets burned. But now you have understood. Now you can let go. Let me show you what this means for your life today. How many times have you held on to anger because someone said something hurtful? How many times have you replayed critical words in your mind, feeling the sting again and again, long after the other person has forgotten what they said? Maybe it's a comment on social media. Someone you don't even know leaves a harsh judgment on something you shared. And even though you tell yourself it doesn't matter, even though you know you should just ignore it, you find yourself thinking about it hours later. Your mind constructs elaborate responses, imagines confrontations, rehearses all the clever things you could have said. Or maybe it's family, words spoken in the heat of an argument that cut deep. You carry them with you for days, weeks, sometimes years. You always, you never, why can't you just? These words become weights you carry, shaping how you see yourself, limiting what you believe you can be. The Buddha's teaching is radical in its simplicity. You can choose not to accept what others throw at you. Not by building walls, not by hardening your heart, not by pretending you don't care, but by understanding that their words, their anger, their criticism only have the power you give them. If you don't pick up the burning coal, you don't get burned. This doesn't mean you become cold or uncaring. The Buddha responded to the angry man with compassion, not indifference. He saw the suffering beneath the anger, but he didn't absorb that suffering into himself. He didn't take ownership of someone else's pain. This is the practice of awareness in action. This is what it looks like to watch your mind without being controlled by it. But to do this, you first need to understand something fundamental. You are not your thoughts. And you are not your reactions. You are something deeper, something more spacious. You are the awareness itself. Think about this carefully. Right now, as you listen to these words, thoughts are arising in your mind. Maybe you're thinking about the story I just told, or about your own experiences with anger and criticism. Maybe your mind has wandered to something you need to do later today. Maybe you're judging how well you're paying attention. But notice something remarkable. You are aware of these thoughts. There's a part of you that's watching the thoughts happen, a witnessing presence that observes the flow of mental activity without being swept away by it. This witnessing awareness is always present, even when you forget about it, like the sky behind the clouds. In Buddhism, this is sometimes called bare attention, the simple, direct awareness of what is happening in this moment, without adding judgment or commentary. It's the pure knowing that exists before you label an experience as good or bad, wanted or unwanted. Imagine you're standing by a window, watching the street below. People walk past, some in a hurry, some strolling slowly, some alone, some in groups. You can watch them all without becoming any of them. You're simply the observer, present at the window, witnessing the flow of life. Your thoughts are like those people walking past. Some thoughts rush by quickly, fleeting impressions, random memories. Others walk slowly, heavily, worries that seem to linger, fears that won't leave. But you, the real you, the aware you, you're not those thoughts. You're the one watching them pass. This changes everything. When you understand that you are the sky and not the clouds, you stop fighting the weather. You don't need to push away the dark clouds or cling desperately to the sunny days. You can simply let them be, knowing that weather passes, but the sky remains. The suffering comes when we forget this distinction. When a thought arises, I'm not good enough, instead of seeing it as just a thought passing through the spacious sky of your awareness, you believe it. You become it. You think, I am not good enough. But that's not true. What's true is a thought that says, I'm not good enough, is passing through your awareness right now. That's very different. One is identification. You are the thought. The other is observation. You are witnessing the thought. One leads to suffering. The other leads to freedom. So how do we cultivate this witnessing awareness? How do we remember that we are the sky? This is where the practice of mindfulness, what the Buddha called sati, becomes essential. Sati is often translated as mindfulness, but it means something more specific than just paying attention. It means present moment awareness combined with clear comprehension. It means knowing what's happening while it's happening, without getting lost in it. The Buddha gave us a beautiful tool for developing this awareness: the breath. Your breath is always with you, always in the present moment. You can't breathe yesterday's breath or tomorrow's breath. You can only breathe this breath right now. This makes it the perfect anchor for your attention, a constant reminder of the present moment. The practice is simple, though not always easy. You bring your attention to your breathing. You notice the sensation of air entering your nostrils, cool and fresh. You notice your chest or belly expanding as your lungs fill. You notice the brief pause at the top of the inhale. You notice the exhale, the release, the letting go. This practice is called anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing. It's one of the oldest meditation techniques in Buddhism, taught by the Buddha himself as a direct path to liberation. But here's what makes this practice so powerful. It's not about controlling your breath or making it special in any way. It's about observing it exactly as it is. Natural breathing, natural awareness. You're not trying to breathe deeply or slowly or correctly. You're just noticing the breathing that's already happening. This is what I call friendly noticing. You're not a harsh judge examining your breath to see if it's good enough. You're a gentle friend, simply keeping the breath company, being present with it. And then, inevitably, your mind wanders. This is not a problem. This is not failure. This is exactly what minds do. Remember, the mind is like a river, constantly flowing. It's not meant to be still. So you notice, thinking. That's all. Just a gentle label, acknowledging what's happening. You don't need to judge the thought, analyze it, or make it go away. You simply note it, thinking, and then gently bring your attention back to the breath. Maybe you notice a sound, hearing, or a sensation in your body, feeling, or an emotion rising, sadness, or restlessness. Each time, you're practicing that witnessing awareness we talked about. You're standing on the shore, watching the river flow, instead of being swept away by the current. Here's a beautiful visualization that can help. Imagine your mind is like a gentle stream, and your thoughts are leaves floating on the surface. You're sitting on the bank, watching each leaf drift by. Some leaves are bright green, happy thoughts, pleasant memories. Some are brown and withered, worries, regrets. Some are stuck together in clusters, whole stories your mind is telling. You don't need to jump into the stream and grab the leaves. You don't need to push them away or change their direction. You simply watch them float past, appearing at one bend in the stream, drifting through your field of vision, disappearing around the next bend. Each thought is just another leaf on the water. Notice it, acknowledge it, watch it pass. But let's be honest, sometimes the mind doesn't feel like a gentle stream. Sometimes it feels more like what Buddhism calls the monkey mind. Imagine a monkey swinging through trees, grabbing one branch, immediately letting go, and grabbing another, never still, never satisfied, constantly moving from thing to thing to thing. Your mind can feel like that monkey, jumping from thought to thought, from worry to worry, from past to future, and back again, unable to rest even for a moment. This is normal. This is not a sign that you're bad at meditation or that something is wrong with you. This is just the untrained mind doing what untrained minds do. The practice is not to stop the monkey. That would be like trying to stop the wind. The practice is to stop being the monkey, to become the tree instead, rooted, stable, watching the monkey swing from branch to branch without being disturbed by its restlessness. This requires patience, tremendous patience. Patience with the wandering mind, patience with the constant distractions, patience with yourself when you forget again and again to stay present. The Buddha taught that this patience is essential. He compared the mind to a wild elephant, powerful, potentially destructive, but capable of being trained through gentle, consistent effort. You don't train an elephant by beating it or shouting at it. You train it through patience, repetition, and kindness. So when your mind wanders for the 100th time, don't criticize yourself. Don't think, "I'm terrible at this," or "this isn't working." Instead, celebrate the moment of noticing. "Ah, my mind wandered, and I noticed it wandered." That noticing is the practice. Each time you notice your mind has wandered and gently bring it back, you're strengthening that witnessing awareness. You're training yourself to be the sky instead of the clouds. You're learning to observe rather than identify. This is the practice, returning again and again and again. Not once, not 10 times, but thousands of times. Every time you return, you're deepening the practice. Every time you notice you've been lost in thought and come back to the present moment, you're building the skill of awareness. There's no such thing as a bad meditation. A meditation where your mind wandered constantly is not a failed meditation. It's a successful practice in noticing and returning. A meditation where you felt restless and uncomfortable is not wasted time. It's an opportunity to practice being present with discomfort. The quality of your meditation is not measured by how peaceful you feel or how still your mind becomes. It's measured by your willingness to show up, to observe whatever is present, and to gently return when you've wandered away. Let's take a moment right now to practice together. Bring your attention to your breath, wherever you feel it most clearly, perhaps at your nostrils, or in your chest, or in the rise and fall of your belly. Don't try to change the breath, just notice it as it is. Breathing in, you know you're breathing in. Breathing out, you know you're breathing out. If your mind wanders, that's okay. Simply notice where it went and gently guide your attention back to the breath. One breath at a time, This breath, right now, nothing else matters in this moment. And as you practice this simple act of watching the breath, watching the thoughts, watching the constant flow of experience through your awareness, something begins to loosen. The tight grip you've been holding begins to relax. The need to control everything starts to soften. You begin to discover a kind of peace that doesn't depend on everything being perfect, but comes from simply being present with whatever is. This is the gift of awareness. This is what the Buddha discovered and what he taught for 45 years after his awakening. Not complicated philosophy, not elaborate rituals, just this simple practice of watching your mind with patience and kindness, learning to be the sky instead of the clouds. But awareness alone is not enough, because as you watch your thoughts, you'll begin to notice something, how tightly you hold on to them, how much you identify with them, how difficult it can be to simply let them pass. This is where the next practice becomes essential, the practice of letting go, of non-attachment, of discovering who you really are beneath all the thoughts and stories. Imagine you're carrying a backpack. At first, when you put it on in the morning, it doesn't feel too heavy. Just a few small things. You barely notice the weight. But as you go through your day, you add things to it. A stone for every grudge you're holding. A rock for every worry about tomorrow. A heavy brick for that mistake you made 5 years ago that you still can't forgive yourself for. You add a stone when someone criticizes you, and you carry their words with you. Another rock when you remember something embarrassing you said last week. A brick for every should have and could have and if only. By afternoon, the backpack is getting heavy. Your shoulders ache, but you keep walking, keep adding, because this is what you've always done. This is what everyone does, right? By evening, you can barely stand up straight. The weight presses down on you, making every step harder, every breath more labored. You're exhausted, not from the day's activities, but from carrying all this weight. And here's the strange thing. Most of these rocks are old. Some of them you've been carrying for years, even decades. You've carried them for so long that you've forgotten you're carrying them. The weight just feels normal now. It feels like part of who you are. But what if, right now, in this moment, you could simply set the backpack down? What if you could open it up, look at all these rocks you've been carrying, and choose which ones, if any, you actually need? The Buddha taught something radical about this. He taught that suffering comes not from the experiences themselves, but from our relationship with them, from how we hold them, grasp them, carry them, long after they've passed. This isn't about suppression. It's not about pretending you weren't hurt, or that difficult things didn't happen, or that you should just get over it. Suppression is like trying to push the rocks deeper into the backpack, zipping it tight and pretending they're not there. They still weigh you down. You just can't see them anymore. What the Buddha taught is different. It's release. Release means looking at what you're carrying, acknowledging it fully, and then making a conscious choice to set it down. Not because it wasn't real, not because it didn't matter, but because carrying it is only creating more suffering now. This brings us to one of the Buddha's most profound and misunderstood teachings: anatta, or not, self. When people first hear about this teaching, they often think the Buddha was saying there is no self at all, that you don't exist. But that's not quite right, and it would be a strange thing for the Buddha to say to someone standing right in front of him. What the Buddha actually taught is more subtle and more liberating. He taught that when you look for a fixed, permanent, unchanging self, when you try to find some essential you that stays the same through all experiences, you can't find it. Think about who you were 10 years ago. Are you the same person? In some ways, yes, there's continuity, a thread of memory and experience connecting that person to who you are now. But in other ways, everything has changed. Your body has changed. Every cell in your body has been replaced. Some, many times over. Your thoughts have changed. Your beliefs, your preferences, your understanding of the world, all different. So who is the you that's reading this right now? The Buddha taught that what we call self is actually a collection of 5 aggregates, 5 processes that come together to create the experience of being a person. First, there's form, your physical body, the material aspect of your existence. Second, there's feeling, the pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral quality of each experience. Third, there's perception, how you recognize and label things. Fourth, there's mental formations, your thoughts, emotions, habits, the patterns of your mind. And fifth, there's consciousness, the basic awareness that knows experience is happening. These 5 aggregates are constantly changing, constantly flowing, like a river. And yet, we look at this river and say, this is me. This is who I am. This is my unchanging self. But the Buddha asks, which part is you? Are you your body? Your body changes every moment, breathing, aging, healing, growing. If your body were truly you, then you would change completely every 7 to 10 years when all your cells are replaced. But you still feel like you, don't you? Are you your feelings? Your feelings change constantly. Happy one moment, sad the next, calm, then anxious, then peaceful again. If you were your feelings, you would be a completely different person every hour. Are you your thoughts? We've already explored this. You can observe your thoughts, which means You can't be the thoughts themselves. The observer is always separate from what's being observed. Are you your consciousness? Even consciousness changes. Alert when awake, different in dreams, absent in deep sleep. Which consciousness is the real you? What the Buddha discovered is this: there is no fixed, permanent self to be found anywhere in this flowing river of experience. What we call I or me is more like a verb than a noun, a process happening, not a thing that exists. And here's why this matters, why this teaching is so incredibly liberating. When you believe in a fixed self, you suffer because you try to protect it, defend it, make it permanent. You identify with your thoughts. I am anxious. I am a failure. I am not good enough. And then you suffer because you believe these thoughts define who you truly are. But when you understand anatta, when you see that all these experiences are just passing phenomena, not your essential nature, everything changes. That critical thought that says, "You're not good enough," it's just a thought arising in consciousness. It's not you. It's not the truth about you. It's just weather passing through the sky of your awareness. That anxiety you feel, it's a temporary state, a pattern of energy moving through your body and mind. It's not who you are. You are the awareness that knows anxiety is present. This doesn't mean these experiences aren't real or that they don't matter. They are real, and they do matter, but they don't define you. They don't limit what you can become, because you are not a fixed thing. You're a constantly evolving process. The Buddha said something beautiful that speaks to this. He said, "You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection." Notice he didn't say, "Once you fix yourself," or "Once you become worthy," or "Once you stop having negative thoughts." He said you deserve love and affection right now, exactly as you are, because the you that you think needs fixing is just another passing phenomenon. Your true nature, like the clear sky behind the clouds, is already whole. This understanding naturally leads to letting go, to non-attachment. The Buddha gave us a powerful metaphor for this. He said that holding on to anger is like picking up a burning coal with the intention of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. But let's extend this metaphor beyond anger. Anytime you grasp tightly to an experience, trying to hold on to pleasure, trying to push away pain, trying to make a temporary state permanent, it's like holding a burning coal. You hold on to a grudge, replaying the hurt over and over, and you're the one who suffers. The person who hurt you may have moved on, may not even remember the incident, but you're still burning. You hold on to regret, wishing you could change the past, and you're the one who suffers. The past is gone. It can't be changed, but you keep holding the hot coal of "if only" and "I should have." You hold on to anxiety about the future, trying to control things that haven't happened yet, and you're the one who suffers. The future hasn't arrived, but you're already burning yourself with worries about it. The moment you notice you're holding something that's burning you, that's the moment of freedom. Not the moment you successfully let go, just the moment you notice you're holding on. Because in that moment of noticing, you've created a tiny gap, a small space of awareness, where choice becomes possible. You realize, I'm holding this. I don't have to keep holding it. I can choose to open my hand. Let me give you some real examples of what this looks like. Maybe someone betrayed your trust years ago. Every time you think about them, you feel that familiar burn of anger and hurt. You might even avoid certain places or situations because they remind you of this person. The betrayal happened years ago, but you're still carrying it, still holding the burning coal. Notice it. I'm holding on to this hurt. I'm still carrying this betrayal. You don't have to judge yourself for holding it. You don't have to force yourself to forgive or forget. You just notice, this is heavy, and I'm the one carrying it. And then you can ask yourself, what would it feel like to set this down? Not to pretend it didn't happen, not to say it was okay, but to simply stop carrying it into every new moment. Or maybe you made a mistake, said something you regret, made a choice that hurt someone, failed at something important. And now, months or years later, you're still punishing yourself, still replaying it, still burning with shame or guilt. Notice it. I'm still holding on to this regret. I'm still burning myself with this past mistake. What would it be like to acknowledge that yes, you made a mistake, and also acknowledge that you've already paid for it many times over through your suffering? What would it be like to set down the coal, even if your hand has been clenched around it for so long that opening it feels strange? Or maybe it's not about the past at all. Maybe it's about the future, a constant anxiety about things that might go wrong. You play out scenarios in your mind, trying to prepare for every possibility, trying to control outcomes that are ultimately beyond your control. Notice it. I'm trying to hold on to certainty in an uncertain world. I'm burning myself with worry about what might happen. The choice to open your hand, to let go, doesn't mean you become careless or passive. It means you stop creating additional suffering through the grasping itself. This is what the Buddha called the middle way. Not grasping tightly, but not pushing away either. Not clinging to pleasure, but not running from pain. Just being present with what is, without adding the extra layer of suffering that comes from wanting it to be different. Now, let's be clear about something important. Detachment doesn't mean disconnection. Sometimes people hear about non-attachment and think it means becoming cold, uncaring, emotionally distant. That's not what the Buddha taught. Detachment means you can fully experience something without grasping it. You can love deeply without trying to control or possess. You can feel sadness without becoming sadness. You can appreciate beauty without needing to own it. Think of holding water in your hands. If you hold your hands loosely, cupped gently, you can hold the water. But if you clench your fists tight, trying to possess the water, it slips through your fingers and you lose it all. Non-attachment is like those gently cupped hands, open enough to let things flow naturally, but present enough to fully experience them. In practice, this might look like labeling your experiences with gentle awareness. When a worry arises, that's a worry thought. Not I am worried, but that's a worry thought passing through. When a memory surfaces, that's a memory. Not getting lost in the memory, not identifying with it, just acknowledging it as a mental event happening in this moment. When self-criticism appears, that's the inner critic. Not I'm worthless, but there's that critical voice again. This kind of labeling creates space. It's like taking a step back from the canvas so you can see the whole painting instead of being pressed right up against it. And notice, there's no harshness in this labeling. It's not, ugh, there's that stupid worry again, or I shouldn't be thinking about this. It's simply, there it is, like you're greeting an old acquaintance on the street. Oh, hello again. I see you. This is where self-compassion becomes essential. As you practice non-attachment, you'll notice how often you grasp, how tightly you hold on, how difficult it is to let go. Be gentle with yourself in noticing this. You've been conditioned your whole life to hold on to your identity, your stories, your hurts, your desires. Learning to let go is like learning a new language. It takes time. It takes practice. It takes patience with yourself when you forget and grab hold again. Every time you notice you're grasping and consciously soften your grip, you're practicing. Every time you catch yourself identifying with a thought and gently remind yourself, I'm not this thought, I'm the awareness of this thought, you're practicing. So what remains when you stop grasping? What's left when you set down the backpack? When you open your hand and let the burning coal fall? When you stop identifying with the passing weather of thoughts and emotions? Peace. Not the peace that comes from getting everything you want or fixing all your problems. Not the peace that depends on perfect circumstances, but the peace that was always there, underneath the grasping, waiting patiently like the sky behind the clouds. This peace isn't something you create or achieve. It's something you uncover. It's your natural state when you're not adding the extra layer of suffering that comes from holding on. Take a breath right now. Just one simple breath. Notice how, in this moment of breathing, you're not grasping anything. You're not trying to make the breath last longer or be different than it is. You're just breathing, just being, just present. That's what remains. This simple presence, this basic awareness, this quiet peace that doesn't depend on anything being a certain way. But understanding this intellectually isn't enough. You can't just think your way to this freedom. You have to practice it, embody it, live it. You have to train your mind day by day, moment by moment, to recognize when you're grasping and gently let go. This is not a one-time insight. It's a daily practice, a lifetime practice. And that practice begins with the breath, with meditation, with building the foundation of a mind that knows how to be still. There's a word in Buddhism that's often translated as meditation, but it means something much richer than just sitting quietly with your eyes closed. The word is bhavana, and it literally means cultivation, or bringing into being. Think about a garden for a moment. When you plant seeds, you don't force them to grow. You don't pull on the tiny shoots to make them taller, or yell at them when they seem slow. Instead, you create the conditions for growth. You prepare the soil, plant the seeds, water them regularly, give them sunlight, and then trust the natural process. Your mind is like that garden. Meditation practice, bhavana, is not about fixing something broken or forcing your mind to be different. It's about cultivating the conditions where clarity, peace, and wisdom can naturally arise. You're not adding something new to your mind. You're removing the obstacles that prevent your mind's natural clarity from shining through. The Buddha often compared meditation practice to a lake. Imagine a lake where the water is constantly stirred up, sediment swirling, making the water murky, impossible to see through. You can't see the bottom, can't see the fish swimming, can't see your own reflection on the surface. What happens when the stirring stops? Gradually, naturally, the sediment begins to settle. First at the bottom, then layer by layer, until eventually the water becomes clear. You didn't have to remove the sediment or add clarity. You just had to stop disturbing the water and allow its natural clarity to reveal itself. This is what the Buddha called samatha, calm abiding, the natural settling of the mind. And this is what your daily practice cultivates. Here's something important to understand. Small steps, walked every day, become the journey of a lifetime. You don't need to meditate for hours. You don't need to go on month-long retreats or become a monk or achieve some extraordinary state of consciousness. What you need is sincerity, a genuine commitment to showing up, even for just a few minutes, and doing the practice with honest intention. 5 minutes of sincere practice every single day will transform your mind more than an hour of forced, resentful sitting once a week. Consistency matters more than duration. Showing up matters more than perfection. The Buddha said that just as a water pot is filled drop by drop, so too is the wise person filled with wisdom, little by little. Each moment of practice is a drop. Each breath you observe with awareness is a drop. Each time you notice your mind wandering and gently return, that's a drop. And over time, the pot fills. So let's begin building your practice, starting with the foundation, sitting, meditation. The first question many people ask is, when should I meditate? There's no single right answer, but there are 2 times that work particularly well for most people: morning and evening, each offering something different. Morning meditation, right after you wake up, captures the mind at its clearest. Your mind hasn't yet filled up with the day's concerns and to-do lists. It's fresh, quiet, still emerging from the peace of sleep. Meditating in the morning is like setting the tone for your entire day, establishing a foundation of awareness that you can return to as the day unfolds. Evening meditation, before bed, offers something different, a chance to settle and digest the day's experiences. It's like gently closing a book before sleep, allowing your mind to release the day's accumulation of thoughts and tensions. Many people find that evening meditation helps them sleep more deeply, as it creates a natural transition from the busyness of day to the rest of night. Try both times and see what resonates with you. Or, if possible, practice at both times, bookending your day with awareness. Now, where should you practice? The Buddha's approach was beautifully simple. Find a quiet spot where you won't be disturbed. Sit down and begin. You don't need an elaborate meditation room or a special altar or expensive cushions. You don't need to burn incense or play special music or create the perfect atmosphere. This is the middle way, not too elaborate, not too sparse, just what supports your practice. A corner of your bedroom, a chair in a quiet room, a spot in your garden, anywhere you can sit undisturbed for a few minutes will work. What matters is not the place itself, but the intention you bring to it. Over time, as you practice in the same spot regularly, that place becomes associated with peace and awareness in your mind, and it becomes easier to settle into meditation when you sit there. Let's talk about posture. The traditional instruction is simple but precise. Sit in a way that is both stable and comfortable. These 2 qualities, stability and comfort, need to be balanced. If you're too comfortable, you might fall asleep. If you're too rigid and uncomfortable, you'll be distracted by physical pain. The goal is alert relaxation, awake and present, but not tense. You can sit on a cushion on the floor with your legs crossed, or on a meditation bench, or in a chair with your feet flat on the ground. What matters is that your spine is relatively straight, not rigid like a board, but upright, supporting itself with natural curves intact. Imagine a string gently pulling the crown of your head toward the sky, lengthening your spine. Your shoulders are relaxed, dropping naturally. Your hands can rest on your knees or in your lap, whatever feels natural. Your jaw is loose, with a slight space between your teeth. Your eyes can be closed, or if you prefer, open, with a soft, downward gaze. This posture sends a message to your body and mind. I'm awake. I'm present. I'm ready to practice. Now comes the heart of the practice. Anapanasati, mindfulness of breathing. This is one of the Buddha's most direct and powerful teachings. Using the breath as an anchor for your attention, a home base to return to again and again. Here's how it works. First, simply notice that you're breathing. You don't need to change your breath or make it deeper or slower or special in any way. Just notice the natural rhythm of breathing that's already happening. Your body knows how to breathe. It's been doing it since the moment you were born. You're simply bringing awareness to this natural process. Choose one place to anchor your attention. You might notice the breath at your nostrils, the cool sensation as air enters, the warm sensation as it leaves. Or you might feel the breath in your chest, the gentle rise and fall, the expansion and contraction. Or perhaps in your belly, the soft movement of your abdomen with each breath. Choose one spot and stay there. This is important. Don't follow the breath through your whole body, wandering from nose to chest to belly. Pick one anchor point and remain there, like a gatekeeper, stationed at a single gate, watching everyone who passes through. Now, to help stabilize your attention, you can count your breaths. This is a traditional technique that many practitioners find helpful, especially in the beginning. Breathe in, breathe out. That's 1. Breathe in, breathe out. That's 2. Continue counting up to 10, and then start over at 1. If you lose count, if you suddenly realize you're at 15, or you can't remember what number you were on, that's okay. Simply start again at 1. The counting isn't the point. It's just a tool to help you notice when your mind wanders. And your mind will wander. This is absolutely certain. This is not a sign of failure. This is just what minds do. You might be on breath 3, when suddenly you realize you're thinking about something you need to do tomorrow. Or you're replaying a conversation from yesterday, or planning dinner, or judging yourself for not being able to focus. The moment you notice this, the moment you realize, oh, I'm not with the breath anymore, I'm lost in thought, that moment is actually a moment of awakening. You've woken up from being lost in the dream of thinking. You've returned to awareness. So you simply note what happened. Thinking, or planning, or remembering, and then gently, kindly, without any harshness or judgment, you guide your attention back to the breath. Back to one if you were counting. Back to the sensation at your chosen anchor point. This is the practice. Returning, again and again and again, with patience and kindness. The Buddha once taught a student who was struggling with his monkey mind, that restless, jumping quality of attention that won't stay still. Let me tell you this story. There was a monk who came to the Buddha in frustration. "Teacher," he said, "I've been trying to meditate, but my mind won't cooperate. It jumps everywhere like a wild monkey in the trees. I can't concentrate for even a few breaths before I'm lost in thoughts again. I must be hopeless at this. Maybe meditation just isn't for me." The Buddha smiled with infinite patience. "Tell me," he said, "before you became a monk, what was your occupation?" "I was a musician, teacher," the monk replied. "I played the veena, the stringed instrument." "Ah," said the Buddha, "and when you were learning to play the veena, did you become a master immediately?" "No, of course not," the monk said. "It took years of practice. At first, my fingers didn't know where to go. The notes sounded wrong. I couldn't keep rhythm. But I practiced every day, and gradually I improved." "And tell me," the Buddha continued, "if you tuned the strings too tight, what happened?" "They would snap," the monk answered. "And if you made them too loose?" "The instrument wouldn't make any sound. The notes would be flat and lifeless." The Buddha nodded. Just so with meditation practice. If you try too hard, if you force your mind with harsh discipline and self-criticism, you'll break, you'll become discouraged and want to give up. But if you're too loose, too casual, without genuine effort, nothing will develop. The strings must be tuned just right, not too tight, not too loose. Patient effort, consistent practice, gentle persistence. This is how the mind becomes calm. The monk bowed deeply, understanding flooding through him. From that day forward, he practiced with patience, adjusting his effort to find that perfect balance, and his meditation deepened naturally, like the lake settling on its own. This is what you're learning to do. Tune the instrument of your attention, finding that middle way between striving and slacking. But meditation doesn't have to be confined to sitting still. The Buddha taught that every moment can become an opportunity for practice, for cultivation of awareness. Walking meditation, what the Buddha called kankama, is one of the most accessible ways to bring meditation into motion. Find a path, maybe 15 or 20 steps long. It could be in your home, in your garden, in a quiet park. Walk slowly, much slower than your normal pace. bringing full awareness to the physical sensation of walking. Feel your foot lifting from the ground. Notice the sensation of lightness, of movement. Feel it moving forward through space. Feel it lowering, making contact with the earth again. Feel the weight shifting from one foot to the other. You can silently note each part, lifting, moving, placing, shifting, or simply feel the sensations without words. When you reach the end of your path, stop, turn slowly and mindfully, and walk back. Your mind will wander here too. Suddenly you'll realize you've walked 10 steps without any awareness at all, lost in thought. That's okay. Notice it, smile at the wandering mind, and return to the sensations of walking. Walking meditation is especially helpful when you're feeling restless or drowsy, when sitting still feels impossible, or when you need energy. It's also a bridge between formal meditation and daily life, showing you how to bring that same quality of presence into ordinary activities. Eating can become meditation too. Before you take your first bite, pause. Look at the food on your plate. Reflect for a moment on everything that brought this food to you, the sun and rain that helped it grow, the earth that nourished it, the farmers who planted and harvested it, the people who transported and prepared it. This simple reflection connects you to the vast web of interdependence that sustains your life. Then eat slowly, mindfully. Notice the colors, the textures, the aromas. Place food in your mouth and really taste it. The sweetness, saltiness, sourness, bitterness. Feel the texture on your tongue. Notice the impulse to swallow, the sensation of swallowing, the feeling of nourishment entering your body. This isn't about making eating take forever or never enjoying a quick meal again. It's about occasionally, maybe once a day, maybe once a week, eating with full presence, remembering what it means to truly taste, to truly nourish yourself. Even washing dishes can become a meditation. Feel the warm water on your hands. Notice the slippery texture of soap, the smooth surface of plates, the sound of running water. When your mind wanders to planning or worrying, gently return to the simple sensations of washing. Just this dish, just this moment, just this warmth on your hands. The Vietnamese monk Thich Nhat Hanh taught, while washing the dishes, one should only be washing the dishes. Not washing dishes while planning tomorrow, not washing dishes while replaying yesterday, just washing dishes, fully present with the task at hand. This is single tasking as meditation, giving your full attention to whatever you're doing in this moment. In our multitasking culture, this itself becomes a radical act of presence. Throughout your day, you can practice sensory awareness. Pause occasionally and simply notice what's here. What do you see? What do you hear? What sensations are present in your body? what smells or tastes. This practice of engaging your senses brings you immediately into the present moment, because the senses only operate now, never in past or future. Now, let's talk about building consistency, because this is where many people struggle. Start small, ridiculously small if necessary. 5 minutes a day is infinitely better than 30 minutes that you never actually do. Many meditation teachers suggest starting with just 5 or 10 minutes of sitting practice, building the habit before extending the duration. Anchor your practice to something you already do every day. Maybe you meditate right after you brush your teeth in the morning, or right before you go to bed at night, or during your lunch break, before you eat. Linking meditation to an existing habit creates a natural reminder and makes it easier to maintain consistency. Some days, your meditation will feel wonderful, peaceful, clear, easeful. Other days, it will feel like wrestling with a wild animal, restless, uncomfortable, frustrating. Practice anyway. The Buddha taught about virya, effort, or energy, as one of the 5 spiritual faculties that need to be developed. This effort isn't harsh or forced. It's more like showing up with sincere intention, even when you don't feel like it. On the days when meditation feels difficult, remember, you're not practicing to feel good, you're practicing to develop awareness. A difficult meditation where you notice your mind wandering 100 times is not a failed meditation. It's a successful practice in noticing and returning. You've just done 100 repetitions of the core practice. And if you miss a day, no problem. Missing one day doesn't break your practice or send you back to the beginning. Just start again the next day without guilt or harsh self-judgment. The practice is not about perfection, it's about showing up again and again with gentleness and commitment. Think of it like learning to play an instrument or speak a new language. You don't become fluent overnight, and missing one day of practice doesn't erase all your progress. You simply pick up where you left off and continue. Finally, I want to tell you about bamboo. In China, there's a species of bamboo that, when planted, shows almost no growth above ground for the first 4 or 5 years. To someone watching, it might seem like nothing is happening, all that watering and care and waiting, and the bamboo appears unchanged. But beneath the surface, something remarkable is occurring. The bamboo is growing an extensive root system, spreading wide and deep, creating the foundation for what's to come. Then, in the 5th year, the bamboo shoots up, growing as much as 90 feet in just 6 weeks. The growth appears sudden, miraculous, as if it happened overnight. But of course, it didn't happen overnight. It happened over 5 years of invisible development. Your meditation practice is like this bamboo. For weeks, maybe months, You might feel like nothing is changing. You're still getting lost in thoughts, still restless, still struggling. You might wonder if you're doing it wrong, if it's even working, if you should just give up. But beneath the surface of your awareness, something profound is happening. Your mind is learning a new way of being. Neural pathways are forming. The capacity for awareness is strengthening. The roots are growing deep. And then one day, not through dramatic effort, not through forcing, you'll notice something has shifted. Maybe you catch yourself before reacting in anger. Maybe you notice anxiety arising, but don't get swept away by it. Maybe you experience a moment of genuine peace that feels different from anything before. The results come slowly, then suddenly, but they come from the daily practice of showing up, watering the bamboo, trusting the process even when you can't see the growth. So be patient with yourself. Trust the practice. Keep showing up, day after day, with whatever time you have, whatever sincerity you can bring. The lake is settling, even when you can't see it yet. The roots are growing deep, preparing for the growth to come. And as your practice deepens, as meditation becomes woven into the fabric of your daily life, you'll need wisdom to carry this peace into the world, to navigate relationships, challenges, and the ordinary difficulties of being human with greater skill and compassion. That's what we'll explore next. How to take this growing awareness and apply it to every aspect of your life, transforming not just your meditation cushion, but your entire way of being in the world. We live in a world of instant everything. Instant coffee, instant messaging, instant downloads. We can order something online and have it delivered within hours. We can find any answer within seconds. We've become accustomed to immediate results, quick fixes. And so when we turn to meditation, we often bring that same expectation. How long until I feel better? When will I stop feeling anxious? How many sessions until I'm at peace? We want the microwave version of enlightenment. But the mind doesn't work that way. The deepest transformations take time, not because there's something wrong with you, but because genuine transformation is like the bamboo we talked about earlier. It requires deep roots before visible growth can happen. Think about an athlete training for a marathon. They don't wake up one morning and decide to run 26 miles that afternoon. They start small, building endurance gradually over months. Some days the training feels great. Other days, every step is difficult. But slowly, their body adapts. Their lungs grow stronger, their muscles more efficient, their mind more resilient. The transformation happens in thousands of small moments. The early mornings when they didn't want to run but did anyway. The days when progress felt invisible. Each moment counted, even when they couldn't see the results yet. Your meditation practice works the same way. Each time you sit, even for 5 minutes, that counts. Each time you notice your mind wandering and gently return, that counts. Even when you can't feel anything changing, the invisible work is happening. The mind is being trained, gradually, gently, consistently. The roots are growing deep. But this requires something we've almost forgotten in our fast-paced world: patience. The Buddha taught about khanti, patience, as one of the 10 paramis, or perfections. Not as a nice quality to have, but as an essential spiritual capacity to cultivate. Without patience, no genuine transformation is possible. Patience is often misunderstood as passive waiting, as gritting your teeth and enduring something you don't like until it's over. But that's not what the Buddha meant. True patience is active, engaged, present. It's the capacity to remain steady when things are difficult or slow. It's continuing to show up even when you can't see results. It's trusting the process when every part of you wants to quit. There's a story about the Buddha himself that illustrates this beautifully. After years of seeking, studying with great teachers, practicing extreme asceticism, the Buddha-to-be came to a profound realization. Neither extreme indulgence nor extreme self-denial led to awakening. He needed to find a middle way. So he sat down beneath a large fig tree, what would later be called the Bodhi tree. He made a vow: I will not rise from this seat until I have found the end of suffering. And then he sat. Not for a few hours, not for a day. He sat for 49 days and nights. Imagine that. 49 days of meditation, of watching his mind, of meeting every fear, every doubt, every temptation to give up. The ancient texts describe how Mara, the personification of delusion, came to him with all kinds of challenges. Terrifying visions meant to frighten him away. Seductive visions meant to lure him away. Doubts whispering that he was wasting his time. But the Buddha sat with patience, not pushing away the difficulties, not grasping at pleasant states, just remaining steady, present, committed to seeing through to the truth. And on the morning of the 49th day, as the morning star appeared in the sky, he awakened fully. Not because he forced it through sheer willpower, but because he had the patience to remain present through the entire process of transformation. Now, you and I probably won't sit under a tree for 49 days. And we don't need to. But we can learn from this teaching. Patience is what allows genuine transformation to unfold. There are 3 kinds of patience the Buddha taught us to develop. First, patience with yourself. Patience with your restless mind, your wandering attention, your habits that don't change overnight. When you judge yourself for being bad at meditation, you're lacking patience with yourself. Second, patience with the process. Some days meditation feels expansive and peaceful. Other days it feels like sitting with a tornado. Patience with the process means trusting that the practice is working even when you can't see the results. The Buddha said this: "Little by little, a person becomes wise as a water pot is filled drop by drop." Not all at once, not through one dramatic insight. Drop by drop, moment by moment, breath by breath. This is how wisdom grows. And third, patience with others. As you develop more awareness, you might notice yourself becoming impatient with people who seem unconscious or reactive. But patience here means remembering that everyone is on their own journey. You were there once too. It's important to understand that patience is not passivity. You're not passively waiting for something to happen to you. You're actively showing up and doing the work, and being patient with the timeline of results. This patience is intimately connected with perseverance, what the Buddha called virya, often translated as energy or effort. Because here's the truth: there will be days when you don't want to practice. Days when meditation feels pointless, when sitting still feels impossible, when the negative thoughts seem louder than ever. There will be mornings when the alarm goes off and every fiber of your being wants to skip it. There will be weeks when you feel like you've regressed, like all your old patterns are back, like nothing has changed. These are the moments when perseverance becomes essential. The Buddha taught about samma vayama, right effort, as one of the 8 factors of the Noble Eightfold Path. He described 4 types of effort. First, the effort to prevent unwholesome states from arising. This is guarding the doors of your senses, being mindful about what you expose yourself to. Second, the effort to abandon unwholesome states that have already arisen. When you notice anger or anxiety present, you make the effort to let it go, not by suppressing it, but by not feeding it. Third, the effort to cultivate wholesome states that haven't yet arisen. This is actively practicing kindness, compassion, patience. And fourth, the effort to maintain wholesome states that are already present. When you feel peaceful, you make the effort to remain in that peace. All of this requires perseverance, showing up again and again, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Let me tell you about a meditation teacher I once knew. Students would often ask her, "How did you develop such consistency? How do you meditate every single day?" She smiled and said, "I don't meditate every single day. I've missed plenty of days over 30 years. The secret isn't never missing. It's that when I miss a day, I start again the next day. When I miss a week, I start again. The practice isn't about perfection, it's about returning. Again and again, I return. That's perseverance. Returning to practice is itself the victory. Not achieving some perfect state, not never having a wandering mind. The victory is in continuing to show up, in beginning again, each time you fall away. There's an old teaching story about a student who came to his teacher feeling discouraged. "Master," he said, "I've been practicing for 3 months and my mind is still a mess. I still get angry, still worry, still get lost in useless thoughts. Nothing has changed. Maybe I'm just not cut out for this." The teacher looked at him kindly and asked, "When you first started 3 months ago, how long would you stay lost in a thought before noticing?" The student considered this. "I don't know, sometimes hours, I guess. Whole days would pass in distraction." "And now?" the teacher asked. "Well, now I notice pretty quickly, usually within a few minutes, sometimes seconds." The teacher smiled. "And you say nothing has changed?" This is what perseverance reveals. Small changes, invisible at first, that gradually accumulate into transformation. So how do you sustain perseverance over the long term? You learn to celebrate the small moments. That moment when you catch a negative thought before it spirals, that's worth celebrating. You've just used the awareness you've been cultivating. That's success. That moment when someone says something critical and you feel the impulse to react, but instead you pause, take a breath, and respond with spaciousness. That's worth celebrating. You've just applied your practice to real life. That moment when you sit down to meditate, even though you don't feel like it, that's worth celebrating. You've just chosen practice over comfort. One conscious breath is success. One moment of noticing is progress. One return to awareness is victory. The path of practice is not linear. You won't improve steadily in a neat, upward trajectory. Some weeks you'll feel great, followed by weeks where everything feels harder. This is normal. This is the process. Progress looks more like a spiral than a straight line. You come back around to similar challenges, but each time from a slightly different angle, with slightly more wisdom. Be compassionate with yourself when progress feels slow or invisible. Remember that you're working against years of conditioning, habitual ways of thinking that have been reinforced thousands of times. Of course, it takes time to establish new patterns. Of course, there will be setbacks. But here's what I promise you. If you stay with this practice, if you continue to show up with patience and perseverance, something beautiful begins to happen. Not all at once, not dramatically, but gradually, naturally, like the sun rising. You'll notice moments of peace where there used to be only anxiety. Spaces of clarity where there used to be confusion. a capacity to remain steady when things are difficult, a kindness toward yourself that wasn't there before. These moments multiply, these spaces expand, and one day you'll look back and realize something fundamental has shifted. Not because you forced it, but because you had the patience to trust the process and the perseverance to keep showing up day after day, breath after breath. The water pot fills drop by drop. The bamboo grows its roots in darkness before shooting toward the sky. And your mind transforms through this simple, profound practice of returning again and again to awareness, to presence, to this moment right here. And as you practice this patience with yourself, this gentle perseverance through difficulty, you'll discover something beautiful. This very practice becomes a doorway into gratitude, into appreciating what's already here, into recognizing the preciousness of each moment, even the difficult ones. As your meditation practice deepens, as you develop patience and perseverance, you begin to notice something remarkable. The practice doesn't stay confined to your meditation cushion. It starts to seep into every corner of your life, transforming not just how you sit in meditation, but how you move through the world. This transformation of your inner landscape requires more than just formal practice. It requires bringing wisdom into the way you relate to life itself, to what you experience, to what you expose yourself to how you care for this body and mind that carry you through each day. Let's explore some practices that can support this transformation, beginning with one of the most beautiful teachings in Buddhism, mudita. Mudita is often translated as sympathetic joy or appreciative joy, and it's one of the 4 Brahma Viharas, the 4 sublime states that the Buddha taught as foundations for a peaceful heart. But mudita is not quite the same as what we usually mean by gratitude in modern culture. Gratitude often carries a sense of owing something, of being thankful to someone for something. Mudita is more spacious than that. It's the capacity to rejoice in what is, simply because it is. It's finding joy in a beautiful sunset, not because you earned it or deserve it, but simply because it's there to be witnessed. It's appreciating the warmth of sunlight on your skin, the taste of water when you're thirsty, the sound of rain on the roof. It's rejoicing in the simple fact of being alive, of having this moment exactly as it is. And here's where mudita connects beautifully with the teaching of impermanence. When you truly understand that everything is temporary, that this moment will never come again in exactly this way, each moment becomes infinitely precious. That cup of tea you're drinking, you'll never drink this exact cup of tea again. This breath you're breathing, once it's gone forever, replaced by a new breath. This conversation with a friend, it exists only once, in this unique moment, and then it becomes memory. Impermanence, which can sound sad or depressing at first, actually makes everything sacred. Nothing is ordinary, when you realize it's fleeting. Everything deserves your full presence, your appreciation, your joy. You can practice mudita formally as a kind of reflection, not making a list to check off, but sitting quietly and allowing yourself to feel appreciation for what's present in your life. Perhaps you bring to mind 3 things from your day, maybe the way morning light came through your window, or a kind word someone spoke, or the fact that you have food to eat. But instead of just thinking about them, you let yourself actually feel the joy of them. You let that appreciation fill your chest, warm your heart. This isn't forced positivity or pretending everything is perfect. It's training your mind to notice what's good, what's beautiful, what's working, not to deny the difficulties, but to create balance. Because the mind, left untrained, naturally focuses on problems and threats. Mudita gently reorients your attention. But mudita extends beyond appreciation for your own life. It includes rejoicing in the happiness and success of others. This is where mudita becomes revolutionary. In a culture that often breeds comparison and competition, mudita invites you to genuinely celebrate when others do well. When a friend gets a promotion, instead of comparing it to your own career or feeling envious, you practice feeling joy for their joy. When someone shares good news, instead of diminishing it or making it about yourself, you practice pure rejoicing in their happiness. This is much harder than it sounds, isn't it? Envy and comparison can arise so automatically. But this is exactly why mudita is a practice. You're training your heart to expand, to celebrate abundance wherever it appears, to recognize that someone else's joy doesn't diminish your own. The Buddha taught that mudita is the direct antidote to envy, jealousy, and the feeling of lack. When you can genuinely rejoice in others' happiness, you begin to see that joy itself is not scarce. There's enough for everyone. In fact, the more you celebrate joy wherever it appears, the more joy you experience yourself. So as you move through your day, you might pause occasionally and ask yourself, what can I appreciate right now? Not to create a false cheerfulness, but to notice what's actually present that brings even a small sense of joy or beauty or goodness. And when you encounter others' happiness, can you let yourself feel genuine pleasure in their pleasure? This practice of mudita begins to transform your inner landscape from one of scarcity and complaint to one of appreciation and celebration. And this, in turn, makes your mind a more peaceful place to live. But cultivating a peaceful mind isn't just about what you do during formal practice or reflection. It's also about what you expose yourself to throughout the day. The Buddha taught about indriya samvara, guardianship of the sense doors. This might sound restrictive at first, like you need to close yourself off from the world or deny yourself pleasure. But that's not what the Buddha meant. This teaching isn't about deprivation. It's about wisdom. about recognizing that what you expose yourself to shapes your mind. Think of your senses as doors. Through the door of your eyes, visual information enters. Through your ears, sounds enter. Through touch, taste, smell, all these are doorways through which the world enters your consciousness and affects your mind. If you leave all these doors wide open with no discernment about what comes through, your mind becomes cluttered, agitated, overwhelmed. It's like living in a house where you never close the doors or windows. Eventually everything blows in. Dust, noise, debris, whatever the wind carries. Wise guardianship doesn't mean slamming all the doors shut and living in isolation. It means being mindful, being selective, being wise about what you invite into your consciousness. The Buddha also taught about kalyana mittata, good friendship, good companionship. He said that good friends are not just helpful on the spiritual path, they are the entire path, because who you spend time with shapes who you become. If you surround yourself with people who are constantly complaining, who see the worst in everything, who feed on drama and negativity, that will seep into your own mind. Not because you're weak, but because minds influence each other. We're social beings. We absorb the energy and attitudes of those around us. Conversely, if you spend time with people who are practicing awareness, who meet life's difficulties with wisdom and compassion, who are genuinely trying to grow and understand themselves, that too will influence you. Their peace becomes contagious. Their wisdom rubs off. This doesn't mean you abandon people who are struggling or only associate with perfect people. It means being honest about which relationships support your peace and which ones consistently disturb it. It means sometimes creating boundaries, limiting time with people whose energy depletes you, seeking out those whose presence uplifts you. In our modern world, we have a new sense door that the Buddha never encountered: screens. Digital media, social media, news, entertainment, the endless scroll. This has become one of the primary ways information enters our consciousness. What are you feeding your mind through this door? Are you scrolling through social media first thing in the morning, filling your mind with comparison, outrage, anxiety before you've even fully woken up? Are you consuming news constantly, keeping yourself in a state of low-grade stress about things you cannot control? Are you watching content that leaves you feeling agitated, envious, or disturbed? I'm not suggesting you become uninformed or disconnect completely from the world. I'm suggesting you become wise about what you consume and when. Maybe you choose specific times to check news or social media rather than having it constantly accessible. Maybe you notice which content leaves you feeling more peaceful and which leaves you feeling worse, and you make choices accordingly. Even your physical environment shapes your mind. Clutter in your space often reflects and creates clutter in your mind. The practice of decluttering becomes a practice of letting go, of releasing attachment to objects you don't need, of simplifying, of creating space. You don't need to become a minimalist or live in an empty room, but notice how you feel in a clean, organized space versus a chaotic, cluttered one. Notice how simplicity in your environment can support clarity in your mind. This is why many meditation spaces are simple, not because simplicity is more spiritual, but because a simple environment is less stimulating, creates fewer distractions, allows the mind to settle more easily. You're not decorating a sacred space with special objects. You're creating space itself, openness, room to breathe. All of this, choosing wisely what you expose yourself to, who you spend time with, what you consume through your senses, this is the practice of wise guardianship. It's taking responsibility for your mental environment, recognizing that peace isn't just something you cultivate in meditation, but something you protect throughout your day. Now, as you develop this wisdom about what you expose yourself to, you also need wisdom about how you care for this body and mind that carry you through life. The Buddha taught about the middle way, the path between extremes. Before his awakening, he practiced extreme asceticism, depriving his body, pushing himself to the edge of death, believing that enlightenment required suffering. But he discovered that this approach didn't lead to freedom. It just created more suffering, more struggle. He also knew from his early life the other extreme: indulgence, luxury, seeking happiness through pleasure and comfort. And he had seen that this too didn't lead to genuine peace. The middle way is neither punishing yourself nor indulging every desire. It's taking care of this body and mind wisely, recognizing them as the vehicle for your practice, for your life. This means getting adequate rest, not because you're being self-indulgent, but because an exhausted mind cannot practice clearly. It means eating nourishing food, not as a reward or comfort, but as fuel for this body that allows you to practice, to work, to serve. It means setting boundaries when you need them, saying no when you're overwhelmed, taking breaks when you need to recharge. This is part of right livelihood and right action, two aspects of the Noble Eightfold Path. Right livelihood means working in ways that don't harm others and that support your practice. Right action means behaving in ways that create well-being rather than suffering. Both of these include how you treat yourself. If you're constantly exhausted because you never rest, if you're running yourself into the ground, if you're ignoring your body's signals, this isn't noble or spiritual. This is just another form of violence, this time directed at yourself. The Buddha said that the body is the vehicle for awakening. It deserves care, respect, wise attention. Not obsessive care, not vanity, but the simple recognition that this body, for all its impermanence, is what allows you to practice, to grow, to awaken. So you care for it skillfully, getting enough sleep, moving in ways that feel good, eating with awareness, resting when rest is needed. Not as indulgence, but as wisdom. Not as self-obsession, but as skillful means to support your practice and your life. This middle way approach extends to everything. You practice seriously, but not grimly. You work diligently, but not obsessively. You care for others, but not at the expense of your own well-being. You're committed to growth, but you're also kind to yourself when you struggle. The middle way is like tuning that instrument the Buddha spoke about. Not too tight, not too loose, but just right for making beautiful music. Now let's get practical with some simple tools you can use throughout your day to bring all of this wisdom into action. The 3-breath reset is one of the simplest and most effective practices. Whenever you notice stress rising, whenever you feel overwhelmed or reactive, you stop and take 3 conscious breaths. Not deep, controlled breaths necessarily, just 3 breaths where you're fully present with the breathing. This creates a pause between stimulus and response, a gap where choice becomes possible. It interrupts the automatic reactivity and brings you back to this moment, to your body, to presence. You can think of certain moments in your day as mindfulness bells, reminders to check in with yourself. Maybe every time you walk through a doorway, you take 1 conscious breath. Maybe every time your phone rings, before answering, you pause and notice, where is my mind right now? Maybe every time you sit down, you feel your body making contact with the chair. These tiny check-ins throughout the day keep you tethered to awareness instead of living entirely on autopilot. The Buddha taught various contemplations, not affirmations where you repeat positive statements to yourself, but reflections on fundamental truths that reorient your understanding. You might contemplate impermanence. Everything I'm experiencing right now will change. This body will age and eventually cease. Every person I love will eventually die. Every pleasant experience will end. Every difficult experience will also end. This isn't morbid, it's liberating, making each moment precious, helping you hold everything more lightly. You might contemplate interdependence. Nothing exists independently. This meal came from countless causes: sun, rain, soil, farmers, transport workers. This body exists only because of food, water, air, the care of others. I am not separate from the world, but intimately connected to everything. You might recall the Buddha's teachings. Suffering comes from craving and clinging. Peace comes from letting go. My thoughts are not truth, just passing mental events. These simple reminders can shift your entire perspective in a moment. When you're about to react to something, try the stop technique. Stop, pause, whatever you're doing. Take a breath, ground yourself in this moment. Observe. What's happening inside me right now? What am I feeling, thinking? What impulse is arising? Proceed. Now respond with awareness rather than reacting automatically. Remember the Buddha and the angry man? When someone criticizes you, you can practice seeing their words as a gift you don't have to accept. You can acknowledge what's useful in their feedback without taking on their anger or judgment as your truth. You can recognize that their words say more about their state of mind than about your worth. Let's say you're stuck in traffic, feeling frustration rising. 3 conscious breaths. Notice the tension in your shoulders. Soften it. Recognize, I cannot control the traffic, but I can control my response to it. Maybe use the time to practice mindfulness of breathing, to listen to something meaningful, to simply be present without resistance. Or someone at work speaks to you dismissively, and you feel anger flashing up. STOP technique. Pause before responding. Take a breath. Observe the anger without acting on it. Then respond, maybe calmly addressing the behavior, maybe choosing not to engage, but responding from awareness rather than reacting from anger. These practices transform your inner landscape because they change your relationship with experience itself. Instead of being at the mercy of circumstances, buffeted by every change, you become the stable awareness that can hold all of it with wisdom and compassion. But there's one more essential practice we need to explore, perhaps the most important of all, and that's how you speak to yourself, how you hold yourself when things are difficult, how you cultivate the kind of compassion that starts with your own heart. There's a voice inside your head that you've been listening to for years, maybe your entire life. It speaks to you constantly, commenting on everything you do, evaluating every choice, judging every mistake. And if you're like most people, this voice is not kind. It's the voice that says, you're not good enough, not smart enough, not doing enough. The voice that highlights every flaw, remembers every failure, predicts every disappointment. The voice that says you should be better, do more, try harder, and when you fall short, it says, see, I told you so. This harsh inner critic is so familiar you might not even notice it anymore. But it's causing tremendous suffering, a suffering you've become so accustomed to that it feels normal. Here's something remarkable. Most people speak to themselves far more harshly than they would ever speak to someone they love. Imagine a friend comes to you having made a mistake. How would you respond? Probably with kindness, understanding, reassurance that everyone makes mistakes. Now imagine you make the same mistake. How does your inner voice respond? "You idiot. How could you be so careless? You always mess things up." This double standard is almost universal. We extend compassion to others while withholding it from ourselves. We understand that others are human, imperfect, doing their best, but we expect perfection from ourselves. Why? Sometimes we believe that being harsh will motivate us to improve. We think that if we're too kind to ourselves, we'll become lazy. We think self-criticism is necessary for growth. But the Buddha knew this wasn't true. Harsh self-judgment doesn't motivate change. It creates shame, which actually makes change harder. It's like trying to water a garden by beating the plants with a stick. The Buddha taught something radical. You, yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. Not when you're perfect, not when you've achieved enough. Right now, exactly as you are, you deserve your own love and compassion. This isn't selfish. This is the foundation of genuine spiritual practice. Because how can you offer true compassion to others if you can't offer it to yourself? How can you practice non-judgment toward others while constantly judging yourself? Self-compassion isn't separate from compassion for others. It's the foundation, the source. When you learn to hold yourself with kindness, that kindness naturally extends outward to everyone you meet. So how do we cultivate this? The Buddha gave us a powerful practice: metta bhavana, loving, kindness, meditation. Metta is often translated as loving kindness, but it's more than just a warm feeling. It's an active wish for well-being, for yourself, and for all beings. The traditional practice begins with yourself, which often surprises people. Many spiritual traditions emphasize putting others first, so starting with yourself can feel uncomfortable. But the Buddha's instruction was clear. You must begin with yourself. Why? Because you can't give what you don't have. If your heart is closed to yourself, that's what will leak out toward others, no matter how hard you try to be kind. But when you've learned to hold yourself with genuine compassion, that compassion becomes abundant, overflowing naturally. Let me guide you through the practice. Find a comfortable position, sitting or lying down. Close your eyes if that feels comfortable. Take a few breaths to settle, to arrive in this moment. Now bring your awareness to yourself, sitting here. You might visualize yourself, or simply feel your own presence, or place a hand on your heart as a gesture of kindness. Then begin repeating these phrases, directing them toward yourself with genuine intention. May I be safe. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be peaceful. Say these phrases slowly, letting each one land. Don't rush through them. Really mean them. Let yourself feel the wish behind the words. May I be safe. May I be protected from harm, internal and external. May I be happy. May I experience joy, contentment, the simple pleasure of being alive. May I be healthy. May this body, which carries me through life, be strong and well. May I be peaceful. May I know the deep peace that comes from within, regardless of circumstances. If you notice resistance arising, and you probably will, that's okay. This is completely normal. You might hear that inner critic saying, "This is stupid," or "I don't deserve this." You might feel uncomfortable, like you're lying to yourself. Notice the resistance with compassion. Say to yourself, this is hard. That's okay. I'm learning." And gently return to the phrases. This is not forced positivity. You're not trying to convince yourself that everything is perfect. You're simply practicing wishing yourself well, the same way you would wish a loved one well, even when they're struggling. Some people find it helpful to visualize a warm, gentle light in their heart area, glowing with each phrase. This visualization is acceptable in metta practice, not as something mystical, but as a way of embodying loving kindness. You can practice this for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever feels right. The length matters less than the sincerity. And here's something beautiful. The more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. At first, the phrases might feel mechanical, but over time, something shifts. The kindness becomes real, embodied, genuine. You start to actually feel the warmth of compassion for yourself. You can bring this practice into difficult moments throughout your day. When you're suffering, when anxiety hits, when you've made a mistake, when you're overwhelmed, you can place a hand on your heart and silently say, "May I be kind to myself in this moment. May I give myself the compassion I need." This simple gesture can be like a warm embrace you give yourself, a reminder that you deserve kindness, especially when things are hard. Part of self-compassion is learning to forgive yourself for past mistakes, for times when you acted unskillfully. The Buddha taught that all beings act according to their level of understanding in that moment. When you made a mistake in the past, you acted based on the wisdom and awareness you had then. You can't change the past. You can only learn from it and act with more skill now. There's a saying, every saint has a past, and every sinner has a future. No one is defined by their worst moment. You are a constantly changing process, capable of learning and transforming at any moment. To practice self-forgiveness, bring to mind something you regret. Instead of rehearsing what a terrible person you are, try this. Acknowledge what happened without judgment. I did this thing. It caused harm. Notice that you can acknowledge the action without making it mean something permanent about your identity. Recognize that you acted from confusion, pain, or limited understanding. You didn't act that way because you're inherently bad, but because you were caught in suffering, in delusion. Feel the regret fully, not as self-punishment, but as evidence that your values have evolved. Regret means you care about not causing harm. That's actually a sign of growth. Make amends if possible. And then, this is crucial, let it go. Carrying shame doesn't undo the past. It only creates more suffering in the present. Learn the lesson, then release the burden. You might say, I forgive myself for not knowing then what I know now. I forgive myself for being human. I release this shame. I commit to acting with more wisdom from this moment forward. This aligns perfectly with the Buddhist understanding of impermanence. You are not the same person who made that mistake. You have learned, changed, grown. Holding on to shame is like punishing today's self for yesterday's actions by someone who no longer exists. Finally, we need to talk about the daily practice of speaking to yourself with kindness. Start noticing your self-talk, that internal commentary running constantly. What tone does it take? What words does it use? When you notice harsh self-talk, pause. Ask yourself, would I speak to a friend this way? Would I say these words to someone I love who was struggling? If the answer is no, then why is it okay to speak to yourself this way? Begin reframing your self-talk with compassion. Instead of, "You're such an idiot," try, "I made a mistake, and that's part of being human." Instead of, "You always mess everything up," try, "This didn't go as planned, but I can learn from it." Instead of, "You're worthless," try, "I'm having a hard time, and I deserve kindness." This isn't about lying to yourself or denying problems. It's about speaking truth with kindness rather than truth with cruelty. You can acknowledge difficulties and challenges while still maintaining a fundamentally kind inner voice. Think of it this way. You're learning to become your own good friend, your own wise parent, your own compassionate teacher. Someone who sees your struggles, understands your pain, acknowledges your efforts, and believes in your capacity to grow. This gentle inner voice is not just nice to have, it's an essential spiritual practice. It's training your mind in compassion at the most fundamental level. And that compassion, cultivated first toward yourself, becomes the foundation for genuine compassion toward all beings. And from this compassion toward yourself, this genuine kindness, this willingness to hold yourself as you would hold a dear friend, you can truly let go. You can release the harsh judgments, the impossible standards, the constant self-criticism that has weighed you down. You can walk more lightly, breathe more freely, live with more peace. Because when you're no longer at war with yourself, when you've made peace with your own heart, everything else becomes easier. The practice deepens, awareness expands, and you're ready to meet life's challenges with the wisdom that comes from a compassionate, settled mind. Take a moment and think about everything you tried to control yesterday. Maybe you tried to control how quickly traffic moved on your way to work. Maybe you tried to control what someone else thought about you, or how they responded to something you said. Maybe you tried to control the weather, or how your body felt, or whether a project went exactly as planned. Now notice something. How much of that actually worked? Here's a truth that's both sobering and liberating. Most of what we spend our energy trying to control is completely beyond our control. You cannot control other people, what they think, what they feel, what they choose to do. You can influence them, you can communicate with them, but you cannot control their inner world or their choices. You cannot control the past. It's done, finished, unchangeable, no matter how many times you replay it or wish it had gone differently. You cannot control the future. You can prepare, you can plan, you can make wise choices now, but you cannot guarantee any particular outcome. Life is too complex, too interconnected, too unpredictable. You cannot control circumstances, the economy, the weather, traffic, other people's decisions that affect your life, illness, aging, loss. These things unfold according to countless causes and conditions, most of which are completely outside your influence. And yet, how much of your mental energy goes into trying to control these uncontrollable things? You worry about what might happen, as if worrying could prevent it. You ruminate about what already happened, as if thinking about it enough could change it. You try to manage other people's opinions, as if you could control what goes on in their minds. This is exhausting. This constant attempt to control what cannot be controlled is like trying to hold back the ocean with your hands. Wave after wave keeps coming, and you keep pushing back, and you never rest, never relax, never accept that the ocean is simply going to do what oceans do. The Buddha taught about karma, action, and he made a crucial distinction. There are things within your hands and things beyond them. What's in your hands? Your actions, your responses, your intentions, your effort, how you choose to speak, how you choose to act, what you practice, where you direct your attention. These are yours. These you can work with. What's beyond your hands? The results of those actions, how others respond, what circumstances arise, what the future brings. You can act skillfully and still have things not turn out as you hoped. You can try your best and still face difficulties. This is the nature of reality. The illusion of control is one of the deepest sources of suffering. We think if we just worry enough, plan enough, try hard enough, we can make life go the way we want it to go. But this belief sets us up for constant disappointment and frustration. Life is not controllable. It's workable, but not controllable. And this brings us to one of the most profound practices in Buddhism: acceptance. Now, when people first hear about acceptance, they often misunderstand it. They think it means becoming passive, giving up, resigning yourself to whatever happens without trying to change anything. They think it means you shouldn't care, shouldn't try, shouldn't have preferences. But that's not what the Buddha taught. Acceptance doesn't mean resignation. It doesn't mean you stop working to improve things, or that you become indifferent to suffering. Acceptance means seeing clearly what is, without the distortion of wishing it were different. It means acknowledging reality as it actually exists in this moment, not as you wish it were or as you think it should be. This is what the Buddha called right view, seeing things as they truly are, without the overlay of your preferences, fears, or judgments. There's a phrase you've probably heard: it is what it is. Sometimes people say this with resignation, with a kind of defeated heaviness. But when understood properly, this phrase is deeply liberating. It is what it is. This situation, this moment, this circumstance, it already exists exactly as it is, regardless of whether you like it or accept it. Your resistance to it doesn't change it. It only adds an extra layer of suffering. There's a prayer used in Western traditions that captures this wisdom beautifully, and it aligns remarkably well with Buddhist teaching. The essence is, grant me the serenity to accept what I cannot change, the courage to change what I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. This is the practice, discerning what's in your hands and what isn't, accepting what you cannot control, and focusing your energy on what you can actually influence, your own actions, responses, and inner state. When you stop fighting against reality, something remarkable happens. You become free to respond wisely to it. Imagine you're in a river and the current is strong. If you fight against the current, trying to swim upstream or force the water to flow differently, you'll exhaust yourself. You might even drown. But if you accept the current as it is, not liking it or disliking it, just seeing it clearly, you can work with it. You can swim diagonally toward the shore, using the current's energy rather than fighting against it. This is acceptance, clear seeing that enables wise response. Let's go deeper into what makes acceptance so powerful, and that requires understanding impermanence at an even deeper level. We touched on anicca, impermanence, earlier, but it's so central to the Buddha's teaching that we need to really let it sink in. everything changes. Not just the obvious things like seasons and weather, but everything. Your body is changing in every moment. Cells dying, new cells forming, breath flowing in and out. Your mind is changing, thoughts arising and passing, emotions rising and falling. Your entire sense of who you are shifting and evolving. Circumstances change, relationships change, feelings change. What you want today might not be what you want next year. What seems unbearable right now will eventually shift. This impermanence is often seen as bad news. Everything good must end. Nothing lasts. Loss is inevitable. And yes, that's part of it. Every pleasant experience will pass. Everyone you love will eventually die, including you. But here's the other side. Every painful experience will also pass. Every difficult circumstance will change. Every moment of suffering is temporary. This too shall pass. These 4 words contain profound wisdom. When you're in pain, when you're going through difficulty, when everything feels dark and hopeless, you can remember this is not permanent. This will change. Just as night always gives way to dawn, this difficult period will eventually shift. But the teaching goes even deeper than that. It's not just that individual experiences pass, it's that change itself is the only constant. There is no solid ground anywhere. Everything is in flux, always. This can sound frightening at first. If nothing is stable, nothing is permanent, where do you find security? The Buddha's answer is radical. You find stability not by grasping onto things that change, but by accepting change itself as the nature of reality. You stop trying to make the impermanent permanent. You stop demanding that things stay the same. You learn to flow with change rather than resisting it. Think about a tree in a storm. The rigid tree that tries to stand completely still and unchanging will break in strong winds. But the flexible tree that bends and sways with the wind survives even the fiercest storms. It doesn't resist the wind, it dances with it. You can be like that flexible tree. You can learn to remain centered while circumstances change around you and within you. Not by making everything stay the same, but by developing the inner flexibility to move with life's changes without breaking. Consider the ocean again. The surface is constantly changing, waves rising and falling, storms and calms, tides coming in and going out. But deep below the surface, there's a place of stillness that's unaffected by the surface turbulence. Your mind can be like that ocean. Thoughts, emotions, circumstances, these are like the surface waves, constantly changing. But beneath all that change, there's the steady awareness that witnesses the changes without being swept away by them. This awareness doesn't change, even though everything it observes is changing. Finding stability in change means resting in this awareness rather than trying to make the waves stop. So how do we practice this acceptance, this letting go? Let's do a brief practice together right now. Sit comfortably and bring your awareness to your hands. Make them into fists, clenching them tight. Hold that tension. Feel what it's like to grip, to hold on, to clench. This is what we do with our minds all day long, holding tight to things, gripping our preferences, clenching around our resistance to what is. Now slowly begin to open your hands. Feel the sensation of releasing, of letting the tension go. Open your palms, turn them upward, let them rest open and receptive. Notice how it feels to release. Notice the relief, the softness, the ease that comes with letting go. This is a metaphor for what we're practicing mentally and emotionally. What are you holding on to that you could release? Maybe you're holding on to expectations about how something should have gone. Maybe you're gripping resentment about something someone did. Maybe you're clenching around worry about the future. Maybe you're holding tight to an idea of who you should be that's causing you to suffer. Imagine placing each of these things in your open palms and then gently turning your hands over, letting them fall away. You're not pushing them away with force. You're simply opening your hands and letting them go, letting them return to the earth. Take a breath. With each exhale, imagine releasing just a little more, letting your shoulders drop, your jaw soften, your belly relax, releasing tension from your body, releasing resistance from your mind. What remains when you stop gripping? Just this moment, just this breath, just this awareness. And that's enough. Now let's bring this practice into real life, into the actual situations you face every day. You're stuck in traffic, running late for something important. You feel frustration rising, maybe anger at the other drivers, at yourself for not leaving earlier, at the universe for making this happen. This is resistance, fighting against the reality of the traffic. Acceptance would look like this. Acknowledge the reality. I am in traffic. I am going to be late. This is what's happening right now. Feel the frustration without adding a story about how terrible this is or what it means about you. Take a breath and then respond. Maybe you call ahead to let someone know you'll be late. Maybe you use the time to practice mindful breathing. Maybe you listen to something meaningful. Acceptance first, then skillful response. Or perhaps you face a major disappointment. You didn't get the job you wanted, or a relationship ended, or a project you invested in failed. The initial pain is natural, but often we add layers of suffering by resisting the reality. This shouldn't have happened. It's not fair. Everything is ruined. Acceptance looks like, this is painful, and it happened. I feel disappointment, grief, maybe anger or fear, and that's okay. You acknowledge the full reality, including your feelings, without demanding that it be different. Then from that place of acceptance, you can grieve, learn, adjust, and move forward in whatever way is needed. Or maybe there's conflict with someone you care about. They said something hurtful, or they're not meeting your expectations, and you want them to change. You can accept that they are who they are right now, with their own conditioning and struggles, without that meaning you have to tolerate harmful behavior. Acceptance doesn't mean no boundaries. It means seeing clearly what is, and then choosing your response from that clarity, rather than from resistance. Peace is not found in getting everything to go your way. Peace is found in your response to whatever comes. When you meet life with acceptance rather than resistance, with flexibility rather than rigidity, with wisdom rather than reactivity, that's when you discover a peace that doesn't depend on circumstances. And when your heart truly accepts, when you stop demanding that reality be different than it is, when you release the exhausting grip of control, something beautiful happens. Your heart doesn't close down in resignation. It opens wider still. Because acceptance creates space. And in that space, compassion can arise for yourself, for others, for all beings navigating this difficult, beautiful, ever-changing life. Now we come to what many consider the heart of Buddhist practice, the cultivation of boundless compassion for all beings. The Buddha taught 4 qualities that, when fully developed, have no limits, no boundaries, no conditions. They're called the Brahmaviharas, the 4 sublime states, or the 4 boundless abodes. The first is metta, loving kindness, the wish for all beings to be happy. Not just the people you like, not just your family and friends, but all beings everywhere, without exception. The second is karuna, compassion, the wish for all beings to be free from suffering. When you see someone in pain, karuna is what moves your heart to want to help, to ease their burden. The third is mudita, sympathetic joy, the capacity to rejoice in others' happiness and success. We explored this earlier, that beautiful quality of celebrating goodness wherever it appears. And the fourth is upekkha, equanimity, a balanced, steady awareness that remains peaceful even in the face of life's ups and downs. Not indifference, but a wise, spacious acceptance that holds everything with equal care. These 4 qualities work together. Loving kindness without equanimity can become attached and clinging. Compassion without equanimity can become overwhelming, leading to burnout. Equanimity without compassion can become cold and distant. But when all 4 are developed together, they create a heart that's both warm and wise, caring, yet not overwhelmed. Here's something beautiful about these practices. They heal both the giver and the receiver. When you practice compassion toward others, you're not just helping them, you're transforming your own heart. You're dissolving the boundaries that make you feel separate, isolated, alone. You're discovering that your well-being and others' well-being are not separate things. The Buddha taught about dependent origination, the profound truth that nothing exists independently, that everything arises in relationship to everything else. You exist only because of countless other beings and conditions. Your food comes from farmers, rain, sun, soil, transport workers. Your clothes, your home, your very life, all of it depends on a vast web of interconnection. When you truly understand this interconnection, compassion arises naturally. How can you wish harm to others when you're so intimately connected to them? How can you remain indifferent to their suffering when their well-being affects your own? This is why the Buddha taught that cultivating compassion is not just a nice thing to do, it's essential to awakening, to freedom, to genuine peace. Now let's practice together, expanding the circle of loving kindness from yourself outward to encompass all beings. Find a comfortable position. Close your eyes if that feels good, or keep them softly open. Take a few deep breaths, letting yourself settle into this moment. We'll begin, as always, with yourself. Bring your awareness to your own presence, perhaps placing a hand on your heart, and gently offer yourself these wishes. May I be safe from harm. May I be happy and peaceful. May I be healthy and strong. May I live with ease. Feel these wishes settling into your heart. If resistance arises, just notice it with kindness and continue. Now bring to mind someone you love, someone who naturally makes you smile when you think of them. Picture them clearly, see their face, remember their presence, and extend these same wishes to them. May you be safe from harm. May you be happy and peaceful. May you be healthy and strong. May you live with ease. Imagine your love flowing toward them like warm light, surrounding them, blessing them. Let yourself feel genuine care for their well-being. You can extend this to other loved ones, one at a time or as a group, family members, close friends, anyone who holds a special place in your heart. For each one, may you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you live with ease. Now we expand the circle further. Bring to mind someone neutral, someone you've encountered but don't have strong feelings about. Maybe the person who served you coffee this morning, or someone you passed on the street. or a coworker you don't know well. This person too wants to be happy. They too experience pain and joy, hope and fear. They too deserve kindness. May you be safe from harm. May you be happy and peaceful. May you be healthy and strong. May you live with ease. Notice how it feels to wish well for someone you barely know. This is where we begin to dissolve the illusion that only certain people deserve our compassion. Now comes the most challenging part of the practice. If you feel ready, bring to mind someone you have difficulty with, someone who has hurt you, someone you're in conflict with, someone who triggers anger or resentment. This doesn't mean you condone harmful actions or that you need to forget what happened. But can you recognize that this person too is suffering? That beneath their harmful behavior is confusion, pain, fear. That they too want to be happy, but are going about it in unskillful ways? Hold them gently in your awareness and try, even if it feels difficult, to extend these wishes. May you be safe from harm. May you find happiness and peace. May you be free from suffering. May you find ease. If this feels impossible right now, that's okay. This is lifelong practice. You might simply acknowledge, may you find peace, and leave it at that. Even that small wish is profound. Now, let your awareness expand outward, beyond these specific individuals, to all beings, everywhere. All people in your city, in your country, across the world. People you'll never meet, whose names you'll never know, whose lives touch yours in ways you can't see. All beings, not just humans, but animals, birds, fish, insects. All creatures who experience pain and pleasure, who seek happiness and try to avoid suffering. Imagine your heart as a sun, radiating warmth and light in all directions, touching every living being with the wish for their well-being. May all beings be safe from harm. May all beings be happy and peaceful. May all beings be healthy and free from suffering. May all beings live with ease. Let this wish expand infinitely, like light that never diminishes, no matter how far it travels. Every being in every direction, without exception, may they all know peace. May they all be free from suffering. Sit with this expansive feeling for a moment. Notice what it's like to hold all beings in your heart with care. Take a deep breath. And as you prepare to complete this practice, bring your awareness back to yourself, back to your breath, back to this moment. Whatever you felt during this practice is perfectly okay. Maybe you felt waves of love and warmth. Maybe you felt resistance or difficulty. Maybe your mind wandered and you forgot what you were doing. All of this is part of the practice. You showed up, you tried, and that's what matters. Gently open your eyes if they were closed. This practice of metta isn't just something we do sitting quietly with our eyes closed. It's a way of moving through the world, of meeting each person and each moment with a heart that's open rather than closed, warm rather than cold. Throughout your day, you can practice compassion in small, simple ways. When someone is rude to you, instead of immediately reacting with anger, you might pause and wonder, what pain are they carrying that makes them act this way? This doesn't excuse harmful behavior, but it helps you see the suffering beneath the surface. When you see someone struggling, carrying heavy bags, looking lost, appearing upset, you might offer help, or simply hold them in your awareness with a silent wish. May you be okay. May you find what you need. Small acts of kindness ripple outward in ways you can't see. You smile at someone who's having a difficult day, and that moment of warmth might be exactly what they needed to keep going. They then treat the next person they meet with a little more patience, who then extends kindness to someone else. One small act of compassion creates waves that spread far beyond your knowing. This interconnection means that every moment of kindness matters. Every gesture of compassion counts. You're not just helping one person. You're contributing to the healing of the whole web of life. In Mahayana Buddhism, there's a beautiful concept of the Bodhisattva, someone who dedicates their practice not just to their own liberation, but to the liberation of all beings. You don't have to be a Buddhist or use this term, but you can hold this aspiration in your heart. May my practice, my growth, my awakening serve not just myself, but all beings. May whatever peace I find overflow to others. The Buddha said something beautiful about this. Thousands of candles can be lighted from a single candle, and the life of the single candle will not be shortened. Happiness never decreases by being shared. Your compassion, your kindness, your peace, these don't diminish when you share them. They grow. The more you practice opening your heart, the more capacity you have for love. The more you extend compassion, the more natural it becomes. And this is perhaps the most beautiful paradox of the spiritual path. In caring for others, you heal yourself. In wishing happiness for all beings, you discover your own happiness. In opening your heart to the world, you find the peace you've been seeking. So as you move forward from here, carry this practice with you. Let it infuse your days, your interactions, your way of being in the world. Let your heart be a candle that lights other candles, spreading warmth and brightness wherever you go. Because in the end, we're all in this together, all trying to find our way, all seeking happiness, all deserving of compassion. And when you recognize this truth deeply, you discover that helping others is not separate from helping yourself. that their peace is your peace, that love has no boundaries. We've walked a long path together these past hours, exploring the nature of mind, learning to observe without judgment, practicing letting go, cultivating patience, building daily practice, transforming your inner landscape through compassion and acceptance. These aren't separate practices. They're threads woven together into one path. Mindfulness is the foundation. Letting go is your daily practice. Compassion is your heart. Patience is your container. Acceptance is your wisdom. Together, they form what the Buddha called the Noble Eightfold Path, a way of living that leads to peace. Start where you are. You don't need to do everything at once. Choose one practice that spoke to you today. Maybe the 3-breath reset. Maybe metta for yourself. Maybe simply noticing when you're grasping. Build slowly, sustainably. Not too tight, not too loose. Listen to your own wisdom. The journey is the destination. You will have hard days. Days when meditation feels impossible, when compassion feels fake, when you forget everything you've learned. This doesn't mean you've failed. Return to your breath. Return to compassion for yourself. The practice is in returning. You're not alone. Take a moment now to notice how you feel. What resonated? What wants to stay with you? You've just spent 3 hours choosing peace. That choice matters. If you'd like, share in the comments where you are and what practice spoke to you. We're all walking this path together, across the world. May you be peaceful. May you be free from suffering. May you find the stillness that's always been there. Until we meet again, dear friend. Take one final breath with me. Thank you for being here.